So what is this? An exquisite corpse is a collaborative drawing, a brainstorming exercise, and a game. You guys might be familiar with this. It also has other names as well. And so we'll play it later, and we're going to play it with drawing, but you can also play this game with sounds, videos, music, poetry, writing, you can use any medium for it, because it's basically one person makes something and you pass it along, and then a group makes kind of this mishmash, Mad Libs type style art piece. And so, exquisite corpses, this method of drawing was invented by the leaders of the Surrealist art movement in the 1920s, and they were playing, like a lot of the leaders of the Surrealist art movement were, artists who were operating in Paris, and so they would all hang out together and spend a lot of time together as friends, and so they would also drink and party together, and so at a game they were playing, at a party they were playing a game called Consequences, which is basically this, but they made it into a drawing. And they were playing it with poetry, and it was basically one person would write one word, the other person had no idea what the last word was, and then they would make a sentence. And so they're called exquisite corpses because the phrase that they instead in one of these poetry games was the exquisite corpse drank the new wine, and that's why it has this kind of macabre title. And this is a drawing that they had done that's now a piece of art history. And so a little bit of background on the Surrealist art movement is that it was heavily influenced by the ideas of Sigmund Freud, and it was all about, the dreamlike, the weird, and overall just a complete rejection of reality, making things kind of creepy, weird, interesting, and they were all about the subconscious. That was their whole shtick. And this, relates to me a lot because my art is very influenced by surrealism, but instead of rejecting reality, I like to kind of play with it and, mess around with the context. And I think the natural world is pretty great and pretty beautiful and very interesting. And I like to put things in places they don't necessarily belong, so that way you can show how weird and wonderful the world is exactly the way it is. And so these are some pieces I made in the last year or two that are kind of like a good example of the types of paintings I like to make. I really love biology and playing with macro and micro, just kind of how living things look similar just by being on these extremely different scales. And so these are some examples of my work. And so being here at the Bio Station has been really incredible because there's so much natural beauty to go around. And so these are a few sketches that I colored because the only paintings I have fully completed. If anyone wants to come look at them or pass them around, they're touch dry, but if you scrape them or rub them, you might get a little bit of residue. I'm only saying this because oil paint will not come out of your clothes, but yeah, these are fully dry if anyone wants to look at them or touch them. Yeah, these are two paintings I've completed while being here, and these are some plans for paintings I definitely want to do in the next month. I think Terry had a really good point that even though the residency is only a month, I feel like I've been farming a lot of inspiration, and so it's going to be a lot of ideas for years to come are going to be very influenced by what we've been able to make here. And so these are some loose plans for paintings that I'm looking forward to making when I get home. But you will notice these are all landscapes, and there's no one hanging out in them except for a few zooplanks in this one. That's kind of too dark to see anyways. Yes, no one's living in any of these paintings, and so today I'm going to put you guys to work to help me make some creatures that will live in these paintings. And so what we're going to do is we're going to play the exquisite corpse exercise, and we're going to, one person draws the head, one person draws the body, one person draws the legs, and we can, go over the instructions as we go as well. And everyone is going to, draw a different segment of a creature using only creatures, people, critters, animals found here at the Bio Station. So that way, when we're done, we'll still amount to something fantastical, but it'll be very inspired by what we're all seeing and being influenced by around us here. And so you should have papers on each table folded into threes. And so this will probably be easiest in groups of three because it'll be 3 people for each drawing. And so if you want to have all the people working on the same drawing, it would be easiest to get into groups of 3. And we'll put a date